everybody, and very welcome to another episode of our broadcast, the Brain Function series from the Togetherness Media, Los Angeles. This is Mohammad Nami, medical cognitive neuroscientist and a sleep disorders fellow. And again, in this episode, I feel quite privileged for having a chance of sharing with you some highlights on the wonderful world of brain and cognitive science studies, what we collectively formulate that as neuroscience research and related studies. In the sixth episode of the Brain Function series, we're here to talk about a concept called applied cognitive neuropsychology. And also we'll be touching on its applications and implications, if you like. So to begin with, let's start with a key term, the mind. We all know that the mind is in our brain, right? But what is psych? And what we really plan to do and understand and modulate and study when we are involved with psychology, when we're giving neuropsychological interventions or psychotherapies. Since there seems to be no clear experimental approach and no clear-cut way to study the psyche per se, modern brain science has had a swing towards the study of cognition and behavior in a more succinct way. In other words, today, there appears to be a way stronger trend towards the study of brain and cognition and behavior. So when we talk about these kind of parameters, when we talk about cognition, we have a way to study that using the technologies, neuroimaging, and also neuropsychological behavioral measurements and metrics. Also, for behavior, we have some means and tools and experimental approaches to study behavior, something like reaction time, something like ideomotor skills or hand-eye coordination, so on and so forth. And for the study of brain, we can do also some, succinct way and experimental approaches, and also some methodological, approaches to the study of the brain are still there. So when we can do those tests, we can rely on them, and they're completely dependable in many instances. Again, we get back to the key word or the key umbrella term that when we're talking about changes in the brain, we refer to that. Remember what that was? That was neuroplasticity, right? In fact, when the clinical or applied psychology experts do psychotherapies such as CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy or schema therapy, they kind of like modulate the way that an individual thinks or judges, rationalizes, and eventually formulates his or her behavior. And through this soft skills modulation, in fact, we're sort of like, kindly changing the way that a person formulates reality, cognition, personality traits, and everything, all right? So through this changes and modulation, the cognitive structures get modified. But before that, we got to be thinking about the changes in the synaptic dynamics, also neural connectivity, and the protein buildup in the neuron and the neurogenetics. These are the things which get actually manipulated at micro scales when we're changing the brain in a way. Either the effect comes from psychotherapy, or it comes from pharmacological approaches, or any other technology-based interventions, okay? So if we want to just, highlight the spectrum and the continuum, how the brain changes, that might start from genes, then all the way go to proteins and synapses and circuits, then networks and neural systems, and then cognition and behavior and how we act, okay? And there are a bunch of, I know that you're familiar with sort of things like that. Some of you might be performing, some practices in applied psychology, clinical psychology, or you might have had some independent learning and studies on these concepts. We all know that there are a bunch of psychotherapy approaches which might be given alone or together with pharmacological or neurotechnological and technology-based treatments. Types of those psychotherapy and psychotherapeutic approaches might include cognitive restructuring, as you know, psychoeducation, or personal development training and counseling. Also, we got schemotherapy, CBT, which is pretty much popular everywhere, and cognitive behavioral therapy. Also, we do have IPT, which stands for interpersonal therapy. These are just kind of, the ways that helping the people to get a better interpersonal skills. Hypnotherapy is a whole different entity that, and it has been validated and confirmed to be effective in some instances, but definitely we got to be cautious about the use of these approaches. It is not actually working in every instance. Also, we have CRT, which stands for cognitive rehabilitation therapy, couple therapy, and counseling, as we said, like relaxation therapy, and so on and so on. Eventually, whatever the case scenario is, psychobehavioral intervention by an expert or a certified psychologist is needed when it is needed. There's no doubt about it. This is one of the pillars in neurobehavioral interventions, and definitely this is going to leave significant impact. So these kind of approaches can literally have an impact significantly in a way to add to the effective pharmacological treatments or neuromodulation and other applied neuroscience-based interventions. And again, all these things ultimately end up through neuroplasticity, as we highlighted. This is all about how psychotherapy and cognitive neuropsychological interventions can be a big, really big add-on to the neuroscience-based services, neuroscience-based interventions, because they are actually sort of, softly modulating the way that we are pre-processing and processing cognitive motives at low, high, and very high order levels. Thank you for tuning in, and let's discuss further insights as we continue with the brain function series in future episodes. And until then, stay safe and be well. And thank you very much.